When America first met Mel Gibson, he was the brash road warrior. He grew up in a devout Catholic family, born in upstate New York. The family moved to Australia when he was 12. And he was still in his 20s when he conquered Hollywood.
Oh, I really won't miss that guy. He's, wow. You know, that's a 22-year-old photograph. I'd like to throw darts at him. Not gonna miss that. Don't want it. It's a drag. It really is a drag.
He says 13 years ago, the man on all those magazine covers was, in fact, drowning.
And it was just like, I just didn't want to go on.
Why? What?
Okay, I'm afflicted with, you know, everyone's got something. I would get addicted to anything. Anything at all, okay?
Was it alcohol?
Yeah, mostly. It was, yeah. Look, don't I look like a rummy? No.
Drugs?
Drugs, booze, anything. You name it. Coffee, cigarettes, anything, all right? I'm just one of these guys who is like that. That's my flaw.
But you talked about the fact that you went on benders, got into fights, was hell to live with. Mm-hmm. They said 5 pints before work?
5 pints of oil, yeah. Yeah.
Beer.
No, it was just to, you know, keep the throat lubricated, you know. Sometimes I used to drive inebriated. I mean, this is the height of careless stupidity. And when you think about that kind of insanity, and that I look back at that now and I go, what was I thinking? I was a wild boy, and we grew up in the 60s and 70s, and, you know, wild times.
Just all kinds of carrying on.
What flaws shall I expose to the world here? Yeah, it's, you know, done a lot of things I'm not proud of. Like to hear another one?
You got my attention.
Yeah. Tell me another one. True confessions on national television. Okay. Oh, gosh. Let me see. Ooh. Here's a beauty. No, I don't want to do this. This is horrible. This is awful. Yeah. I'm really a good guy. I mean, the real medal goes to my wife, who's a wonderful woman, you know.
What did she do?
What did she do? She hoped. For years.
Robin, his wife of 24 years and mother to his 7 children.
She's the best friend I've ever had. She's just great and would be there completely 100%, 110%. And to put up with me, that's already a tall order. So, hey, I'll spend the rest of my life giving her medals, more precious than jewels.
But Gibson says several times he had tried to turn his life around but kept failing, and was brought to the brink of suicidal despair.
You know, I checked into a few places and, you know, sorted myself out. I didn't make a big noise about it.
You thought of jumping out a window?
I really did, yeah. I was looking down thinking, man, this is just easier this way. I don't know, you have to be mad. You have to be insane to despair in that way. But that is the height of spiritual bankruptcy. There's nothing left. But wow, what a waste. And that people do that is so sad. Whenever I hear a suicide, I just want to die, you know. I want to cry. And it's because there's something better if they can just hang on a little longer, you know. It's awful. So, anyway. Oh, is this the crying segment? Wait a minute. Wait.
Did someone say something?
Sorry.
Did someone say something to you? Or you said it to yourself?
I said it to myself at this point. But that was after years of other people saying, hey, you know, Bud, you got a problem. I think I just hit my knees. I just said, help. And then I began to meditate on it, you know. And that's in the gospel, you know. I read all those again. I remember reading bits of them when I was younger. Pain is the precursor to change, which is great. That's the good news.
Not only did he return to the faith of his childhood, but he built a church for the practice of what is called traditionalist Catholicism, a very strict, very private church defined in entrenched opposition to the Vatican, specifically the reforms issued in the 1960s. Reforms which include celebration of Mass in modern languages and more inclusion of other faiths. So when we talked with Gibson and his actors, we wondered, does his traditionalist view bar the door to heaven for Jews, Protestants, Muslims?
That's not the case at all. Absolutely not. It is possible for people who are not even Christian to get into the kingdom of heaven. It's just easier for, and I have to say that because that's what I believe.
You have the non-stop ticket.
Well, I'm saying it's an easier ride where I am because it's like, I have to believe that.
He says journalists are making it all more mysterious than it really is.
I'm just Roman Catholic the way they were up until the mid-60s, you know.
Before Vatican II.
Yeah, and that's the Latin Mass with a properly ordained priest, and it's never been abrogated. Abrogated means never been outlawed or stopped. It's always been perfect. It's still perfectly okay to do that. You just don't see it very often. There's a lot of confusion around, particularly amongst Catholics. I mean, if you talk to a Catholic, they're confused. They're in crisis, many of them. Not all of them. Now, when this happens, and you don't know what to do, and you lose confidence, St. Paul tells us in the Gospels that it's best to hold fast to the traditions.
Particularly, he says, a Catholic who has been as confused as he.
You know, I'm not a done deal. I'm a work in progress, and I'm extremely flawed. And I better continue to think that way, too, because it's the truth.
When we come back, questions about the Pope's endorsement of the film and Gibson's father.
Gotta leave it alone, Diane.
And so let's get started, and let me introduce you to Mel Gibson.
This is what happened when the Passion met the promotion.
Whew. It's a big group, isn't it?
Not only did some churches buy tickets in blocks of 20,000, they're calling it the best evangelical tool in 2,000 years.
Go to this R-rated movie.
Some of the churches are offering interactive CDs, framed photos, books about the movie. How does this make Gibson feel?
You're not going to get the, the Burger King hookup, the Last Supper meal or something. It's like, this is the United States of America, and that sort of happens.
But for a moment, it seemed the biggest promotion of all would come from none other than the Pope himself. He screened the film and, according to published reports, said it is as it was.
What did the Pope think of your film?
Well, apparently he said it is as it was. And then apparently he didn't. And then apparently he did again. And then, went back and forth. I don't know. Maybe there was a janitor there in the office at night that pressed that press secretary's button and sent a message, and he didn't mean to send it. I don't know.
He's talking about an email he says was sent to his camp, but adds that word was passed to several independent reporters, too.
They all had confirmation from his personal secretary that he said that. Now, then all of a sudden it was, they were backpedaling. I don't know why.
Why would they say it, then pull back?
Look, I don't know. I don't understand why. It's a mystery to me. I don't understand it. But it doesn't really matter that much because, it's what it is. It doesn't need to be. It is as it was. It's just what it is.
The apparent Vatican flip-flop is just one of a series of things making the director feel under siege.
Is the world full of conspiracies to you?
See, it's gotten a bad name, conspiracy. It's only logical to assume that conspiracies are everywhere because that's what people do. They conspire. If you can't get the message, get the man. So I think that's what we're engaged in here. We're engaged in character assassination.
And one journalist Gibson has singled out is New York Times associate editor and writer Frank Rich. Rich complained that Gibson was only inviting token Jews to his preview screenings. Rich did not get an invitation nor see the movie himself, but lashed out with a series of disparaging essays, 3 of them.
Did you say of Frank Rich, I wanted to kill him? I want his intestines on a stick. I want to kill his dog.
I did say that. I was on the phone at the time to my publicist who, had just been called by Frank Rich. Frank Rich had called him, because he's good at calling names, he'd called him a Holocaust denier defender. He'd called my publicist that, right? And his parents were survivors from the Holocaust. They got, numbers on their arm. And I was felt bad for him. So I said that to him, but it was more like a joke, and I was blowing off a little steam, at the same time. I'm sorry I said that thing about Frank Rich's dog. I would never want to hurt a dog's feelings.
Do you want to say anything else to him?
Frank? God bless you, Frank.
But what about Rich's serious accusation that Gibson generated controversy to sell his movie by going on television months ago to complain about Jewish criticism that didn't even yet exist?
He's also said that you were baiting Jews.
But the transcript indicates that the interviewer talked about Jewish reaction, that Gibson was complaining about the New York Times.
Oh, yeah. No. I think as soon as they started filming, that beacon of journalistic integrity, the New York Times, was, dispatched someone to go down there and take advantage of my father, even before I could finish filming. So, but, do you think they really want to know what my dad has to say, or did they ever want to know before I started making this film? I don't think so. It's a thing to try and drive a wedge in between a man's own flesh and blood. That's my father, okay? I love him. And if they're going to try and drive a wedge in there, it ain't going to happen.
Gibson's father, Hutton Gibson, age 85, who has written books and a newsletter with some decidedly provocative terms of phrase. He has called the Pope Garrulus Carolus the Koran kisser. And in that New York Times Magazine interview, he seemed to be questioning the scope of the Holocaust, skeptical that 6 million Jews had died. So what does Gibson think?
Do I believe that there were concentration camps where defenseless and innocent Jews died cruelly under the Nazi regime? Of course I do, absolutely. It was an atrocity of monumental proportion.
And you believe there were millions, 6 million,
Sure.
millions? I think people wondered if your father's views were your views on this.
Their whole agenda here, my detractors, is to drive a wedge between me and my father. And it's not going to happen. I love him. He's my father.
And you will not speak publicly about him
I'm
beyond
tight
that.
with him. He's my father. Gotta leave it alone, Diane. Gotta leave it alone.
That's a wrap!
As of tonight, there are some signs that The Passion of the Christ might even turn out to be a hit movie, producing the joke out in Hollywood that now everyone will rush to make the sequel.
25 million or 40 million of your own money in it?
Gee, it's somewhere between there. I don't know, 30, probably.
Were you to have that much of your own money in it?
No. I was doing all right on $28 a week as a garbage man, $28 a week and all you can eat. It was fine, It's fine. It doesn't matter stuff like that. I've never worried about that. Ever, ever, ever.
But what about Mel Gibson's Superstar, the box office lethal weapon?
Hey, you want to see crazy?
Can you go back to making those films after this?
I'm kind of, I don't know. I don't feel like I want to. I don't feel like I want to get in front of a camera anymore. I like getting, just being a slob behind a camera and watching other people look good. I might not hurry back. I might go somewhere no one can find me. You know where that is? You know where's the place that no one can find you? I was thinking of pitching my tent right next to the weapons of mass destruction. Then no one would find me.
In the meantime, the film continues to generate a kind of national conversation with people from all sides weighing in sometimes surprising ways. The Reverend Franklin Graham, son of Billy Graham, says he liked the film, but that he's going to do everything he can to make sure no one blames the Jewish people. Jewish leader David Elcott, while raising concerns, asked that everyone be more careful about leveling charges of anti-Semitism. And religious groups of all faiths are asking, is this the time to start talking about our different views?
God sending someone to die in place of someone is a love letter.
By raising Jesus to new life, that tells Christians that all of us are destined for new life.
We need to learn about each other. Jews, I think, would do well to understand how precious the story of the Passion is for their Christian neighbors, and actually maybe sit down and read it. Christians, on the other hand, need to know how painful the history of the Passion has been for their Jewish neighbors.
Let's get this out on the table and talk about it. You know, this is what the Talmud says. This is what the Gospel says. Let's talk. Let's talk. People are asking questions about things that have been buried a long time.
So who killed Jesus Christ?
The big answer is we all did. I'll be first in the culpability stakes here. There's an argument that says Christians are more culpable in Christ's death than are non-believers.
It's your hand in the film holding the nail?
It is. Yeah, my left hand. In Italian, sinistra, or sinister hand. Jesus Christ was crucified for all men, of all creeds, for all time. And he died for all of us.